The first sign was the taste of metal on my tongue, coppery and sharp, a taste I knew meant the storm was coming. I'm Willow, I'm 29 and my epilepsy is a loaded gun. But the true horror wasn't the shimmering in my vision, it was the silence. The deafening, soul-crushing quiet in the exact spot my seizure-alert dog, Orion, was supposed to be. When I confronted my family, they told me they had taken care of the dog situation. It was only the beginning of their lies. The silence hit me like a fist. I stood in the doorway of my little craftsman home in Maple Creek, Vermont, grocery bags still dangling from my hands, and felt the absence of sound like a weight pressing on my chest. Orion, my German shepherd, my lifeline, always greeted me with the click of his nails on the hardwood, the soft nudge of his wet nose against my palm. But today, nothing. The air felt sterile, wrong, like someone had sucked the life out of the room. Orion? My voice cracked, too loud in the quiet. Boy, come on! I dropped the bags, apples rolling across the floor, and stepped inside, my boots squeaking on the polished wood. My heart was already climbing into my throat, a familiar, dangerous rhythm starting to pulse behind my eyes. Orion was trained to sense that. My epilepsy, the seizures that came out of nowhere since the car accident 5 years ago. He'd be here by now, pressing his body against mine, grounding me. Where was he? The kitchen light was on, casting a warm glow that felt like a lie. My mother, Carol, stood at the counter arranging lilies in a vase. Their heavy, funereal scent curled into my nose, making my stomach twist. She didn't look up, just kept fussing with the flowers, her hands steady as if nothing was wrong. Mom? My voice was sharp now, edged with panic. Where's Orion? She finally glanced at me, her eyes sliding away too quickly. Oh, Willow, you're back. Did you get the milk I asked for? Mom, where's my dog? I stepped closer, my hands shaking. The metallic taste was creeping onto my tongue, a warning sign I couldn't ignore. A pre-seizure aura. I needed Orion. Now. She sighed, setting down a lily with deliberate care. Willow, don't make a fuss, your sister needed us, we took care of the dog situation. The words landed like a slap. Dog situation? Orion wasn't a situation. He was my lifeline, my partner, the only thing that kept me from cracking my skull open on the floor when a seizure hit. I gripped the edge of the counter, my vision starting to shimmer at the edges. What does that mean? Took care of? Carol's lips tightened, but her voice stayed calm, almost patronizing. Brooke's been struggling, you know that. We had to make a tough call. It's for the family. The room tilted. I could feel the seizure creeping closer, a storm gathering in my brain, my family. Always the family. But never me. Never my needs. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat, drowned by the rising tide of fear and betrayal. The silence wasn't just in the house anymore, it was in me, swallowing everything. I don't know how long I stood there, clutching the counter, trying to breathe through the panic. The lily smell was choking me, and my mother's calm was a knife twisting deeper. The front door opened and I heard the heavy tread of my father Mark, followed by the lighter, quicker steps of my sister Brooke. They came into the kitchen like a unit, a wall of authority I'd never been able to break through. Willow, Mark said, his voice carrying that boardroom tone he used when he wanted no argument. Sit down, we need to talk. I didn't sit. I couldn't. My legs were locked, my hands white-knuckled on the counter. Where's Orion? I asked again, my voice raw. Brooke stepped forward, her eyes red-rimmed but too perfect, like she'd practiced crying in a mirror. Willow, I'm so sorry, she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound real. It's my fault. I've been having panic attacks. My therapist says it's phobia. Dogs, they trigger me. Even knowing Orion's around, it's too much. I stared at her, disbelief burning in my chest. Phobia? Since when, Brooke? You've never been afraid of dogs? You've petted Orion 100 times? Mark cut in, his voice cold and final. Don't be dramatic, Willow. It's an animal. We did what was best for your sister. An animal? I choked on the word. Orion's not an animal, he's medical equipment. He saves my life. You know that. Brooke's tears came faster now, but they felt like a performance. I'm so sorry, Willow. I didn't want this, but I can't function like this. Cry. I'm falling apart. I wanted to scream, to shake her until the truth fell out. But then Mark said something that stopped me cold. This family needs to look stable right now, he said, his eyes narrowing. The trust is under review because of Brooke's divorce. We can't afford any complications. The trust. the family money, the one thing they cared about more than anything. I saw it then, the real reason behind this. My epilepsy, my needs, Orion, they were all inconveniences, threats to the perfect image they wanted to project. I was the black sheep, the problem child who didn't fit their polished narrative. "You gave him away," I said, my voice breaking. "You gave away my dog because of money?" "Don't be ridiculous," Mark snapped, but his avoidance of my eyes said enough. The aura was worsening, my vision blurring at the edges, the floor seeming to sway beneath me. I tried to argue, to explain how Orion could sense my seizures, how he'd saved me from falls, from injuries, from worse. But my words came out jumbled, desperate, and they looked at me like I was a child throwing a tantrum. Brooke's fake tears kept falling and Carol just stood there, arranging her damn lilies like this was a normal Tuesday. I was alone. The realization hit harder than the seizure warning signs. My family wasn't just dismissing me, they were dismantling my life to protect their own. The metallic taste flooded my mouth, and I knew I was out of time. The seizure hit like a freight train. My knees buckled, and the last thing I remember was the cold tile floor rushing up to meet me. Orion would have been there, nudging my head onto his side, keeping me safe. But he wasn't. I woke up in Maple Creek General Hospital, my tongue swollen, my body aching like I'd been hit by a truck. The EMT was finishing paperwork, her face kind but tired. "You're lucky you didn't crack your head open," she said, before leaving me alone in the sterile room. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the pain in my muscles nothing compared to the hollowness in my chest. Orion was gone. My family had done this. The betrayal was a physical thing, a weight that made it hard to breathe. I was alone. More alone than I'd ever been. My parents, my sister, they'd chosen their image, their money, over me. Over my life. My phone was on the bedside table and my hands shook as I grabbed it. There was only one person I could think to call. Leo Ramirez, my old high school friend, now a private investigator who'd just moved back from Boston. We hadn't talked much since he left, but he'd always been the one person who saw me, not the problem child my family painted me as. "Willow?" His voice was groggy but warm when he answered. "It's 2 a.m. You okay?" I wasn't okay. I told him everything. Orion, my family's story about Brooke's sudden phobia, the trust, the way they'd dismissed me. My voice cracked, but I kept going. Spilling out the hurt, the fear, the way my own body was betraying me too. "They took him, Leo. They took my dog, and I don't even know where he is." There was a long pause. "Willow, your dad, he practically runs this town. You sure you want to go up against him?" "I don't have a choice," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "They're lying. I know it. Brooke's never been afraid of dogs. It's about the money, Leo. The trust. They want me out of the picture." Another pause, then a shift in his tone, sharper, like he was slipping into PI mode. "Okay, tell me everything again. Slow this time." I did, laying out every detail. The lilies, Brooke's tears, Mark's mention of the trust. Leo listened, asking sharp questions that cut through my fog. By the end, he was all in. "Get every piece of paperwork you have on Orion," he said. "Vet records, service dog certification, all of it. We're gonna find him." I clung to that task like a lifeline. The hospital room felt less suffocating with something to do, a purpose to hold on to. Leo's voice, calm and steady, was the first real kindness I'd felt in days. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep me from breaking apart completely. I was discharged from the hospital at dawn, my body still aching, my mind a tangle of fear and determination. Leo's instructions were clear: get Orion's paperwork. I drove home, the quiet of Maple Creek's empty streets pressing against me, the memory of that unnatural silence in my house still clawing at my chest. My hands shook on the steering wheel, but I kept moving. I had to. For Orion. Inside, the house felt like a stranger's. The lilies were still on the counter, their scent now sickeningly sweet. I ignored them and went straight for the file cabinet in my office, pulling out Orion's folder. Vet records, training certificates, his service dog registration. Every page was a reminder of how he'd saved me, time and again, from the chaos of my own body. I stuffed them into a bag, my heart pounding with a mix of purpose and dread. Leo called as I was finishing. "I checked out Evergreen Meadows Rescue," he said, his voice low, like he was somewhere he didn't want to be overheard. "The shelter they claim they sent Orion to. It's bad news, Willow. No physical address on their site, Just a slick web page and a bunch of deleted reviews calling it a scam. Sounds like a front for something shady. I'm digging deeper, but you need to check Orion's last vet visit. Anything off about it? Dr. Evans. The name hit me like a brick. He'd been our family vet since I was a kid, always kind, always patient, sneaking me extra dog treats for Orion. If anyone knew where my dog was, it'd be him. I drove to his clinic, the familiar red brick building on the edge of town. The bell above the door jingled as I walked in, and there he was, behind the counter, his white hair thinner than I remembered, his smile tight. "Willow," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "What brings you here?" I held up Orion's file, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "I need to know where he is, Dr. Evans. My family says they gave him to Evergreen Meadows. You signed his last checkup. What happened?" His face changed, the warmth draining out of it. He busied himself with papers, muttering about a busy schedule. I pressed harder, my voice rising. "You know Orion's my service dog, you know what he means to me, just tell me where he is." He finally looked at me and the guilt in his eyes was a punch to the gut. "I signed a release form," he admitted, his voice low. "It said Orion showed signs of instability, aggression. I had to, Willow. It was for the community." "Aggression?" I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Orion's never hurt a soul. You know that. Why would you lie?" He looked away, mumbling about pressure, about doing what was best. I saw it then, the weight of my father's influence. Dr. Evans wasn't just complicit, he'd been coerced. The betrayal burned deeper than my family's. This was a man I'd trusted, who'd bandaged my scraped knees as a kid, who'd celebrated Orion's training milestones with me. And he'd sold me out. I left the clinic, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. Back home, I was tearing through drawers, looking for anything else that might help, when I found it. A gift from Brooke, a sleek aromatherapy diffuser she'd given me last week, insisting I use it daily to manage my stress. The vial of lavender oil was still half full, its scent sharp and chemical. A memory hit me. Brooke watching me set it up, her smile too bright, too eager. My stomach twisted. On instinct, I called Leo. "Don't touch it," he said, his voice grim. "Bag it up. I know a lab that can test it, off the books." I sealed the vial in a plastic bag, my heart racing. The pieces were falling into place, and they were uglier than I'd imagined. My family, Dr. Evans, maybe even the whole damn town, they were all in on this, closing ranks to protect their own. And I was the outsider, the black sheep they wanted gone. The next few days were a blur of waiting and dread. I barely slept, my dreams haunted by Orion's absence, by the metallic taste of another seizure lurking. Leo worked fast, calling in favors, chasing leads. When he finally called, his voice was tight with urgency. "The lab results are in," he said. "That oil in the diffuser? It's got a compound that can lower the seizure threshold in epileptics. Not enough to kill you, but enough to make your condition look unmanageable." I felt sick, the phone heavy in my hand. My own sister had been poisoning me, slowly, deliberately, to make me seem unstable, to justify taking Orion, to cut me out of the trust. I sat on the couch, staring at the bagged-up diffuser, the truth sinking in like a stone. This wasn't just about money anymore, this was personal. I didn't think, I just acted. I drove to my parents' estate, the sprawling colonial house that always felt more like a museum than a home. They were all there, Mark, Carol, Brooke, sitting in the dining room like they were posing for a family portrait. I didn't knock. I walked in, the lab report in one hand, Orion's file in the other, and slammed them on the table. "Explain this," I said, my voice shaking but strong. "You poisoned me, you took my dog, you lied about everything." Brooke's face went pale, but Mark didn't flinch. He leaned back, his eyes cold, like he was sizing up a business rival. "You're being hysterical, Willow," he said. "This is exactly why we can't trust you with the family's future. You're unstable." "Unstable?" I laughed, the sound jagged. "You've been slipping me drugs to make me seize, and I'm the unstable Ono." Carol reached for my hand, her face all soft concern, but I yanked away. "Don't," I said, "don't pretend you care." Mark stood, towering over me. "Enough," he said. "You're making a scene. If you keep this up, I'll have no choice but to have you declared incompetent. You'll be in a facility by the end of the month, and I'll control your share of the trust. Is that what you want?" The threat was a blade, sharp and precise. I saw it then, the end game. They didn't just want me sidelined, they wanted me gone, locked away, silenced. My heart pounded, but something new was rising in me, a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't the scared little girl they thought I was, not anymore. "I'm not done," I said, my voice low. "You took Orion, you tried to break me, but I'm coming for you. All of you." I turned and walked out, their stunned silence following me. In the car I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. The betrayal was complete, the illusion of family shattered. But I wasn't helpless. I had Leo, I had evidence, and I had a fire in me that they couldn't extinguish. Leo's next call came late, his voice urgent. "Evergreen Meadows isn't a shelter," he said. "It's a front for a dog trafficking ring, high-end breeds sold to the highest bidder. I got a tip, they're moving a batch of dogs tonight, including a German Shepherd. Midnight, we've got no time, Willow. The sheriff's in your dad's pocket, he won't move until Monday." My heart stopped. Orion, my Orion, was about to disappear forever. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "We go in," Leo said. "We get him out. It's illegal, risky as hell." "You in?" I didn't hesitate. "I'm in." We met at a diner outside town, Leo sketching out a plan on a napkin. The facility was an hour away, a nondescript warehouse with minimal security but a tight schedule. We had a narrow window to get in, find Orion, and get out before the transport van showed up. My body was still weak from the seizure, my mind battered by betrayal, but the thought of Orion kept me focused. I wasn't losing him. The drive was tense, the rain pounding the windshield, blurring the world outside. Leo was quiet, his hands steady on the wheel, but I could feel his nerves. "You sure about this?" he asked as we pulled up near the facility, a squat building surrounded by a chain-link fence. "I've never been sure," I said, my voice steady despite the fear. We moved fast. Leo disabled a sensor on a side gate, his tools quick and precise. The rain soaked through my jacket as I slipped through, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear it. Inside, the warehouse was a nightmare. Cages stacked high, filled with whining, barking dogs, their eyes wide with fear. The air was thick with the smell of wet fur and despair. I moved down the aisle, whispering Orion's name, my voice shaking. Then I heard it. A faint, familiar whimper, one I'd know anywhere. I ran to the end of the row, my flashlight catching the glint of his eyes in a transport crate. "Orion," I breathed, my hands fumbling with the lock. He was agitated but unharmed, his tail thumping weakly against the crate. A shadow loomed behind me, a hulking kennel worker, his face hard. "What the hell are you doing?" he growled, grabbing for me. I didn't think. I grabbed a heavy dog bowl from a nearby shelf and swung, catching his knee. He stumbled, cursing, and I popped the lock open. Orion surged out, pressing against me, his warmth a lifeline. "Leo," I shouted, and he was there, pulling me toward the exit. We ran, Orion at my side, the rain stinging my face. As we reached the gate, headlights swept across the yard. I froze, locking eyes with the driver of the transport van. Brooke's ex-husband, the one she'd claimed was out of her life. His face was a mask of shock, then rage. It hit me like a lightning bolt. The divorce, the phobia, the trust, it was all a lie, a scheme to strip me of everything and fund their new life. My sister wasn't just betraying me, she was orchestrating it all. The rain was a cold slap against my face as we burst through the gate, Orion's fur brushing my leg, his presence the only thing keeping me from collapsing. The headlights of the transport van cut through the dark, pinning us like prey. Brooke's ex-husband, Jason, leaned out the window, his face twisted with fury. "Willow," he shouted, his voice barely audible over the storm. "You're making a big mistake." I didn't stop. Leo grabbed my arm, pulling me toward his car, Orion loping beside us. My heart was a drum in my chest, each beat screaming, "Run, run, run." We piled into the car, Orion scrambling into the back seat, his wet fur soaking the upholstery. Leo slammed the gas, the tires spinning on the slick gravel before catching. The van's headlights flared in the rearview mirror, chasing us. "Go, Leo," I gasped, twisting to check on Orion. He was panting, his eyes wide but alert, his body pressed close like he was guarding me even now. My hands shook as I reached back, touching his fur, grounding myself in his warmth. He was here. He was real. But Jason's face in that van, it was the final piece of the puzzle, the ugliest one yet. Brooke's divorce was a sham, a calculated move to bleed me dry and fund their escape, my own sister. The betrayal was a knife, twisting deeper with every mile. Leo's jaw was tight, his eyes flicking between the road and the mirror. "He's not following," he said finally, his voice rough. "But we're not out of this yet. We got Orion, but we need to nail them. I nodded, clutching Orion's collar like a lifeline. In the chaos of the break-in, Leo had grabbed logbooks from the facility, pages detailing inventory and buyers. Evidence. My mind raced, piecing together the plan. We had the lab results from the diffuser, Dr. Evans' coerced confession, and now this, proof of a trafficking ring tied to Jason. It was enough to force the sheriff's hand, even if he was in my father's pocket. We pulled into a gas station an hour away, the neon lights casting a sickly glow over the wet pavement. Leo spread the logbooks on the hood, his flashlight illuminating names, dates, and dollar amounts. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a line. "German Shepherd male service-trained, sold for 20 grand. That's Orion." My stomach churned. 20 grand. That's what my life was worth to them. I looked at Orion, curled up in the back seat, his head resting on his paws. He'd saved me from seizures, from falls, from despair, and they'd reduced him to a line item. "We're ending this," I said, my voice low but steady. "All of it." Leo nodded, his eyes fierce. "We will, but we need to be smart. Sheriff Brody's not gonna like this, but he can't ignore hard evidence." The drive back to Maple Creek was quiet, at the rain easing to a drizzle. Orion's steady breathing was the only sound that mattered, a rhythm that kept my heart from spiraling. I wasn't just fighting for him anymore. I was fighting for myself, for the life they'd tried to steal. The adrenaline was fading, leaving a bone-deep exhaustion, but also a spark of something new, defiance. They'd underestimated me, and that was their mistake. The next morning, Leo and I marched into Sheriff Brody's office, the logbooks, lab results, and Orion's file stacked in my arms. Brody was a big man, all bluster and badges, but his eyes darted nervously when he saw us. "Willow," he said, leaning back in his chair. "This about that dog again? I told you my hands are tied." "No, they're not," I cut him off, slamming the evidence on his desk. "This is a trafficking ring. That's my dog they tried to sell. And this," I held up the lab report, my hands steady despite the rage burning in my chest, "is proof my family poisoned me to make me look unstable. You're going to do something, or I'm taking this to the state police." Brody's face went red, then pale. He flipped through the logbooks, his fingers pausing on Jason's name. This is serious?" he muttered, like he was surprised I didn't buy it. He'd known something was off, but my father's influence had kept him quiet. Not anymore. Within hours, the sheriff's department raided Evergreen Meadows. The news spread like wildfire through Maple Creek. Cages of stolen dogs, records of black market sales, and Jason, caught red-handed trying to move the stock. Dr. Evans cracked under pressure, admitting Mark had threatened to ruin his practice if he didn't sign the fake release form. The lab results sealed it. Felony charges piled up against Mark, Carol, Brooke, and Jason. Conspiracy, theft of medical equipment, reckless endangerment. The family name, once untouchable in this town, was ash. I didn't stay to watch it burn. I packed a bag, Orion's leash, and his favorite blanket, and moved in with Leo temporarily, a small apartment in a neighboring town. Maple Creek was a ghost to me now, its quaint streets tainted by betrayal. I sat on the couch, Orion's head heavy in my lap, his tail thumping softly against the cushion. My phone buzzed constantly, texts from aunts, uncles, cousins, all pleading for me to understand or forgive. I scrolled through them, each one a reminder of the family I'd never really had. The last message was from Carol, a long, rambling plea about how she'd only wanted what was best. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the screen. I felt the weight of years, of being the black sheep, the burden, the one who didn't fit. Then I deleted the thread and blocked her number. One by one, I blocked them all, severing every tie. The silence that followed wasn't oppressive anymore. It was freedom. Outside, snow was falling, soft and quiet, blanketing the world in white. I looked down at Orion, his eyes half closed, his breathing steady. He stirred, sensing my gaze, and his tail gave a lazy thump. That sound, small, steady, loyal, was everything. I wasn't whole, not yet. The scars of betrayal ran deep, and the pain of losing my family, even a family that hurt me, was a dull ache I'd carry for a long time. But I was free. Free to rebuild, to find my own people, my own home. I stood, Orion stretching beside me, and walked to the window. The snow was piling up, covering the past, making everything new. I thought of Leo, who'd risked everything for me, and of the apartment I'd start looking for tomorrow. A place for just me and Orion, a fresh start. The future was uncertain, but for the first time that didn't scare me. It felt like possibility. Orion nudged my hand, his nose warm against my palm. I smiled, a real smile, the kind I hadn't felt in months. "We're gonna be okay, boy," I whispered. And for the first time, I believed it. If there's one thing you take away from my story, let it be this: trust your instincts. The world, and sometimes even the people closest to you, will try to convince you that you are the problem. They will call you hysterical, unstable, or dramatic when you speak a truth they don't want to hear. Do not let them silence you. That gut feeling, that metallic taste, that sense that something is deeply wrong, that is your power. Have you ever had a gut feeling that turned out to be right? Share your story below. Your voice matters.